Alright, boys and girls, welcome to the Esports Venture Cup. We are currently in Group B, and we have the first match between Dimaga and BabyKnight. There are 4 players in the group. We have Dimaga, BabyKnight, Whitera, and Hero Marine. So we're gonna cast as many games as we possibly can. This is the first match in the best of 3 between these two heroes. Starting to the top right, we have BabyKnight, our Protoss player. And starting to the top left, it is Dimaga, Ukrainian player. Buff as hell and big as I don't know. But yeah, that guy is pretty awesome. I really like his haircut. So currently we have our first Protoss vs ZerG of the day, and it should be a good one. Dimaga played just recently also in the WCS qualifier for Europe, and he had played some amazing games against Terran, especially against Yoda, where he was able to take it with a 2-1, absolutely impressive. A series that you can also find on the YouTube channel, on Cal.tv, on YouTube, youtube.com/Cal.tv. And the one thing that I have to say about Dimaga is that against Protoss, he had a much tougher time. He played later on against a Protoss player that took him down immediately, so that was a little bit unfortunate. These small lags that we currently have during the game is because this is a recording of a live stream if you are actually watching the VOD right now instead of the live stream itself. So a couple of Battle.net lags that we have here and not a replay recording. That's how that came to pass. So Dimaga right now at the top left is starting things off with the pool first. Basically the opening that you will see from nearly every Protoss player, ZerG player against the Protoss these days. And then of course you want to get your hatch off, but the problem always if you don't go into the pool first is, first of all, a hatch first can be cannon rushed if your opponent goes into a forge first, and another thing is that this little annoying thingy here is really prone to just block that hatch for as long as possible and maybe even drop a pylon. And if you do not have a pool by then that can get a couple of Zerglings into the picture to kill that pylon, you have a pretty tough time ahead of you, since you have to dodge and get your natural up at the third base, and that can lead into a quite problematic opening for the Zerg player. As a Protoss, on the other hand, we have BabyKnight starting things off with a Nexus first, and he drops the Forge afterwards, so he is of course very keen to block this ramp right here as fast as he can. One of the things that we have on Habitation Station, which is quite unique to the map in the current ladder pool and in the tournament pool itself, is that we have gold bases. We have 2 gold bases, one here and one over here, and this is something that is especially a thorn in the side of a lot of Protoss players in this matchup, since ZerG has usually a very early third base, and they are very eager to get that gold base as fast as they can. With air units, you are in a position where you can actually do quite some damage if you just have your units right over here. Colossi on the low ground, of course, are also great to attack the mineral line right there. So that's something that you always have to keep in mind if you take that base, that it's a little bit more vulnerable than other bases. But as I just said, a third base is of course pretty fast for ZerG player, and Dimaga does exactly what we just talked about. He takes his third as fast as he can. It's the gold base that will give him a huge boost in the mineral income. So something where he is of course just trying to secure that for as long as possible. And for BabyKnight we're going to see the exact opposite. The Protoss player had to cancel a gateway here. He pulled one extra gateway down just because he wanted to wall off completely as the Zerglings were trying to get in. So that was one of the things that he did do immediately. A nice touch is that we have actually the cybernetics core in the main base that will give BabyKnight a little bit of safety, because one of the things that can really happen quite fast as a Protoss player is if you have your entire wall set up, let's say with the cybernetics core here as well, then suddenly the roaches that walk up that ramp have 2 beautiful targets. One is the forge and the other one would be a cybernetics core that also doesn't fit perfectly into this wall. But the cybernetics core could be sniped. That means no sentries, no, let's say, stalkers, no nothing. So that brings you in a really awkward position, and that's one of the reasons why we have that now in the main base. And of course, cybernetics core is currently being researched, so let's see how exactly this is going to pan out here. BabyKnight is of course trying to get rid of that third base. That is absolutely annoying to a Protoss player. That extra income for ZerG, you don't want that. You want him to just get that base maybe over here. Ideally, he doesn't get any base at all because you already killed him by that time. But if he needs to take a base, then please take the one to the left side of the map. That's at least what BabyKnight is thinking. He already has one of the probes right at the front. Could drop a pylon here, whereas we have now the +1 attack upgrade also started for the Protoss, and that means he wants to be aggressive with gateway units. Already chrono boosting here a stalker out, and he has the warp gate research nearly halfway done. So that's one of the objectives for BabyKnight here. With a faster attack upgrade, that Zealot is going to be so tough against Zergling, but that's not the case right now. Oh my god, BabyKnight, what are you doing? He's getting put behind, with his back to a wall. The Zerglings surround Stalker and Zealot and take it out. That is horrible for our Protoss player here. If he loses the second one, that would be absolutely devastating. There is no speed upgrade for the Zerglings just yet, but they nom away at the Stalker already. Speed just started, as well as the Roachborn. And the one thing that we see for BabyKnight are 3 additional gates in the main base. That means he's going for 4 gate aggression with a +1 attack upgrade against the Zerg player in his base. A pretty late upgrade here in terms of Zergling speed for Dimaga, but he has the lair tech now starting as well, which won't help him against an attack immediately, but it's going to be really good for him to get the tech out if he defends against the aggression. He wants to follow this up and doesn't want to slack on the upgrades itself. On the tech upgrades, that is. The Roachborn, on the other hand, that would help against the gateway attack now quite a bit. And once again, a Stalker endangered of being just surrounded by a few links and taken out. BabyKnight has already lost a little bit of the initiative on the map because the earlier units were killed. And now a sentry is being put into a corner. That is really a little bit unfortunate. Here comes a third base attempt by BabyKnight, but Dimaga is already there, trying to force a cancel on the buildings and surrounding those zealots within an instant. This is a really tough time for the Zerg player here. Dimaga is suddenly on fire. I mean, this guy is turning Super Saiyan right now. Killing the pylon over here, putting that Stalker once again in a lot of danger. The speed upgrade not even done just yet, and more warp-ins coming in, but so much damage done by all those links, they might even be able to take the Stalker down, because speed is now suddenly done. Bye-bye Stalker, and guess what? There's a lot of roaches already on the way. Not only those 3, but even more are being built, and Zerglings are gonna follow this up too. So the only thing that BabyKnight can do is drop a cannon as fast as possible, get a couple of sentries into the picture, and get those force fields going. Because right now, Dimaga, he smells blood in the water. This guy is out for trouble. He wants to take him down as fast as possible. And there are those sentries that I was just talking about. He needs them. He desperately needs them. And they make sure that Dimaga can't just simply run up this ramp. But instead, he's just trying to go up the ramp at that main base, or at the natural. But that one Immortal is already working against that. So currently the Immortal getting the first few kills off. A pylon is being attacked here, and suddenly it's time for Dimaga to just move in. He might be able to snipe another pylon here, or maybe he's just going through the cannon and through that forge. Whatever he does, he needs to get close to that one Immortal here, because that bad boy is going to town right now. He's dropping roaches like other people are dropping hip-hop lines. I don't know, that was the worst thing that I could go for, but I just did it. The robotics facility already out of power, and that is another bad sign for the Protoss player here. He's really trying to hold on, but take a look at the minimap. All those units streaming over to the right side of the map, and the probes are already going down. The probe count currently 51 against 43. Dimaga really cutting drones early, and that gives him just all the fuel that he needs for this aggression, but he needs to do damage, and he's currently doing it. Resources lost 3,200 for both of them, basically, but Dimaga with just a much better army supply here, looking at 52 against 18, and BabyKnight, he is really trying to hold on. He has cannons, he does whatever he can, and he's really throwing this force off a little bit. But more units are streaming across the map. Dimaga, he wants to end this game right here, or at least get a massive lead. And now he traps all these units there on the ramp. He's trying to head over to that third base. He wants to make sure that BabyKnight doesn't have those gold mineral patches. And the force fields in this scenario are working against the Protoss player, who just now can finally leave his natural again and come over here to maybe save this base. But it's not going to be easy, especially with Dimaga on the high ground. The force fields helping him for a little bit, but now the roaches can just turn around and kill this base basically for free. We're not quite there yet, but that's what it looks like. More and more warp-ins going down for the Protoss player. Zealot after Zealot is being attacked here, and Dimaga is just producing a shit ton of units. He has a fourth base already established, not really saturated, but he has a lot of production right now. The Immortals, they're just running for their life, and they are not the fastest guys out there, you know that already. Immortal with 2 kills is just running away from the roaches, and at the same time a few others are sniping a couple of drones, are just hanging around there, trying to look a little bit cool and sexy. But as soon as they are going to attack that base, it's, yeah, well, there's not going to be any jokes around any longer, because this base is the first thing that Dimaga needs to kill right now, and he knows that as well. He's moving in already with 18 roaches now, killing those probes, trying to snipe that Nexus, and BabyKnight is under so much pressure. He's at 66 supply against 118, and that Nexus is a goner. So at this point, there's not a whole lot that BabyKnight can do. He's on 2 bases against 4 already, and Dimaga can now just simply drone up behind this. He's just making sure that there's no third base over there, and that's exactly the case. So the Zerg player just getting additional drones, now getting more overlords since he's supply block. He's starting his upgrades, and Dimaga is just in an amazing spot now. Look at that income that we currently have. 2,000 minerals per minute against 1,300. The gas currently in favor of BabyKnight, but that's not going to hold for long, especially with additional gases potentially being taken at that 4th base over here. The one thing that, of course, BabyKnight can do right now is get his blink and also his additional upgrades into the play and then try to lead maybe with a really strong army, go over, take that gold base from Dimaga, but it is absolutely going to be so difficult for him to pull that off. More gateways coming in, we have Immortals. It's a scary army, don't get me wrong, but the numbers, they are in Dimaga's favor, and BabyKnight is moving out. The Zerg player is already in a position where he's posturing at the front door, and that forces BabyKnight, at least for now, to just fall back a little bit, to wait a bit longer until he has more Immortals in the picture, and just go for it. So much pressure by Dimaga here, and, well, if there's a little bit more pressure, I think he's gonna give birth. I have no idea, but that is, like, this is brutal. I have no idea what BabyKnight can do. Really, he's just sitting tight here. He wants to push out once more with whatever he has there, but it's actually, I think it's nearly already too late. I mean, there are Hydralisks now in the game too. The 1-1 upgrades are starting. Dimaga doesn't even have to fight here. He can fall back for now, just trying to buy himself a little bit more time. He's trying to do exactly that. He's just moving in, forcing BabyKnight back, because our Protoss player is very reluctant to push in here. He just doesn't want to go up against Dimaga's army. If this gets surrounded, then it's lights out. So the only thing that he can do is sit tight, get a stronger army out, and when he feels confident, just move out. He's even trying to take a third base now. I think he can't play the catch-up game. Maybe he's going to prove me wrong, but we even have a Spire transition going on for Dimaga right now. BabyKnight blinking to safety with those Stalkers, trying to shield those few Immortals as well. But here come the Roaches, closing the distance, the force fields. They do what they can, but there is very little to do when your opponent has nearly doubled the army supply. GG and game as Dimaga takes game number 1 in this series in an absolute, like, pressure game that we had there. Well played by the Zerg player, but let's see if BabyKnight can come back into the series.